Hello, everybody. My name is Alexy Khrabrov. I'm head of community at Lake Sail. It's a new startup that just came out of stealth. My information was previously from the last year, so I'm very excited, to basically help build this novel AI-enabled warehouse of the future built in Rust, which is a popular language here. And I think this is one of the coolest panels on open source AI builders. We have some of the coolest builders around, so please come on stage and take the seats. We're starting a little late. The schedule got shifted, so thanks for waiting. And when folks are seated, I really want to thank GOSIM organizers and sponsors who made this conference possible. I think this is one of the most interesting global communities getting together in kind of, Paris, the capital of AI. So I think we're going to cover a lot of interesting topics about kind of how do we actually go about building this open source AI ecosystem changing the world. So I'll take my seat here. Let's do this. Let's, each of you, please introduce yourself in about 2-3 minutes and say what you're doing, but also mention one topic which you think is most important for us to create an open source AI ecosystem where a lot of open source companies can work together to change the world, make a lot of money, and basically have a lot of fun. Let's start, from that corner, from Rémi.
Hi. Oh, it works. Hi, everyone. My name is Rémi. I'm the CEO, co-founder and CEO of .text. Who's .text? You might know the open source library Outlines, maybe. So that's the company that spun out of this open source library about 2.5 years ago. So Outlines is 3 years old. And we're basically, you might not know us, but you have definitely used our technology because we're at the origin of structured outputs. And this is what we've been working on for now 3 years. This is, of course, spans JSON, but as we're probably going to talk about today, we've been working a lot on tool calling lately. And I think that, today, obviously the most important topic I would say in AI right now, besides training new models, is agents and agent infrastructure. And open source models, I think actually today are good enough for this, but we're lacking a couple of things. First, we're lacking infrastructure in terms of like background agents, etc., which some people are building here. And we're also, a very important thing, that's more about us, is that it's like, how do we make, because there's different open source models are trained differently with different conventions. It's like, how do we, as an open source community, make sure that we can use open source models for function calling as drop-in replacement for foundational models, which is not the case today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Quentin. I'm working on WithMine, which is a new startup I started in January of this year. The idea of this startup is that I think the AI agent is a step toward a new thing that's going to happen afterward, which is called AI orchestration. And I think that's basically the way we're going to build the next system is going to be through a structured way of building them while having the ability to handle unstructured data. So it's kind of having both of those aspects. And so I'm building a programming language that's allows to build this kind of systems, which is native for this. So if you want to build this kind of system in Python, for example, or other languages, it becomes spaghetti very quickly, and you lose like a lot of information. The compiler is not good at detecting when there is an issue because it doesn't know what an LLM is, what a human is, what a human in the loop, what is like a service call. And my compiler is able to reason about those objects, and so to have like very rich error that allows to guide the builder. And I guess for the open source, so I'm still pretty new in open source. I open sourced my project 3 weeks ago. So I'm still like discovering a bit. Thank you. I got like 1,200 stars. So yeah, I was quite happy about this. And so I think that maybe my biggest, like when I will start to scale, I think the biggest thing I would very like value would be like, I think the ability of people to participate in the development or like building, because I'm doing with bricks, which is like sub-elements that people can use and plug in their system. I think it would be very helpful for people to like really engage in like building their own nodes and sharing with other people. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Marc Sanselme. I'm an engineer, AI engineer for 10 years and founder of Draft and Run. So Draft and Run is a AI workflow builder We started as a no-code company a year ago, and then model got better, so we changed our vision and we completely reinvented ourselves. And because today everyone is vibe coding and no code do not have the same place as before, so right now we see ourselves really as a set of constraints that help the model be more efficient, and viewer as well as the set of constraints helping the people using our tool to understand what they do really quick, because what's really at stake with vibe coding now is to understand the code you don't read. So that's what we're bringing with Draft and Run today. The topic I'd like to bring is probably modularity in open source. I think one key to keep a very powerful open source ecosystem is probably in modularity, which means like maybe having closed source modules and open source modules, but having them communicate efficiently. Like we know we have models, connectors, we have builders, we have editors, IDE that are reinventing themselves. All those things need to be modular for a powerful ecosystem.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Junyi ZHONG, the CEO of Ineo France, which is an AI operation system company based in Paris. And today for the topic, I'm really thinking about the open source is not only regarding on the software part, but also hardware. Open source software give us a neutral ground and allow every builders, they can specialize their own use case. And recently, I do vibe coding and I create a macOS app totally without writing any line of code. I was a software engineer. And the idea is like we want to open source to all these HID, human interface devices, freely to plug into your laptop, to your any productive tools. You speak and you can understand your intent. It transforms into actions to accurate your ideas easily. Then we make it happen. Yesterday, it can connect with like a TV controller, the remote, and with a wireless microphone, so you can speak voice to text. And I would like to open for more other hardware devices. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everybody. So this is Minako. Before joining Moonshot AI, I'm a software engineer working in Google. And in Moonshot AI, I first doing some stuff with post training, and then the infer, and now developer relationships. So I can say I have a little bit of knowledge about how to training a large language model from the sketch. So today in open source large language model, so everyone love to use Kimi K 2.6 because it's gets best the balance between price and performance. Not only the individual developer use our model, like to use OpenClaw and Hermes agent, but also some enterprise use our model as the base model to training their own model, such like the Cursor Composer 2 series. So I think the more people join to the open source, the more benefit we get from each other. So thanks.
Thank you very much. So, maybe I'll kind of pose the next set of questions around what's really happening now in open source community. And if you noticed, we switched from like, we used to have, conferences like this where we sit on stage and talk. However, something happened upstairs, the hackathon. And so I live in San Francisco Bay Area. In the last 6 months, everything changed completely into hackathons. Every day we have 5 different hackathons going around San Francisco somewhere. Right? There is a GI House, there is Shack 15, and when companies launch Gemma or OpenAI, they drop tens of thousands of dollars sponsoring this hackathon. So there are basically developers living and sleeping in the hallway somewhere and they hack all day, right? And so this is how a lot of stuff is getting built. And so you're the founders. You want developers to use your tools. So, I wonder if you can share some experiences or think we have basically this changed world where, for instance, VCs no longer know how to properly measure startups because they're all basically, not many of them are generating money. So what they're looking for mind share, right? So they want stars, they want influence, right? They want following. And so like Anthropic has a model how they invest, like they measure actually, like, I mean, they don't give it to you, but they basically count all of these things, right? So I'm curious, if we want to kind of make open source ecosystem work, we need to, on the one hand, we need to get developers to use our tools. But what I found, a lot of these hackathons using multiple partners, and people are very happy to work together because if we all come and work with developers and give them our tools, right, and they build, like you cannot just build with outlines or agents or a model, like you need all of this, right? Like the agents should use the model and produce an outline output. So can you like talk about what you've seen among developers using your things? If you went to any hackathons, what do you see? What's the best practice to get developers to look at your stuff and use it and build with it? Anybody?
I mean, I'm going to say something that kind of saddens me as a software engineer. I mean, originally was a software engineer. As frameworks, actually, when, if you want people to use your software, it has to be battery included. Like, it's something that we resisted really hard with outlines. I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but what I noticed is that as a result, we only get, more advanced developers. And so I think that if you want to have as much reach as you want, you even have to include the model connectors, in your library, which kind of saddens me because that goes against the principle of modularity. Because if you look at software in general, if you go out of machine learning, like when you build software, it will just be a patchwork of many different libraries, right? Libraries that do one thing and do it well most of the time. And now I would say, don't do that. If you want people to use your software, actually, give them the full experience like within your library. Yeah.
Maybe I can jump in also. I did a lot of hackathon, and I think the ones I really dislike are the ones that are like made by those companies that wants to do like use their products, but they don't tell you that they want you to use their products. So often it's like they have a subject which is like general, and then you do your projects, and then at the end you figure out that actually there is a hidden criteria which is did you use their products, and which is like I never use any products that I go in hackathons. And so yeah, I really dislike this. Like I think it's good to maybe do a project where the tool is like an option, but at the same time, like because your tool is the best, then people will use it, but not like force people and do it as a hidden criteria. And like I really don't like this, so yeah, I think people should do less of this. Yeah.
Yeah, Rémi just remind me like my experience of joining the hackathon, but it was in Web3 industry. And these companies, they try to spend money to attract developers to build on their ecosystem, but they never success to do so because they cannot figure out like what's the benefits or the value and add value you can bring to the developer themselves. But so most of the case, the developers, they want to have like a easy, they want something fun, they need something can boost their own life or developer experience, but not as a commercial package, So that's a short comment. Sorry.
Yeah. What I'm thinking about this topic is that there really are two economies in a way. Like there's the hackathon, students, hobbyist economy that is very influential, and in open source, they really are choosing what is to be a like big product or not, and they don't spend a dime, so they need everything free. They want everything open source. They have already tools. They like their tools. They don't want to change their stack because of a new tool. So like really like you need to do everything perfect for them. And what's very interesting is that they do not think the same way at all in their purchases as the one that are going to bring you money later, which is obviously something you need for your company. So yeah, I would say like in the open source world, you need to care about the free users, maybe even more, and yeah, even more than the one that are going to pay the salaries later.
Which is hard, right? Because you have to figure out how to transition to the paying customers.
I have maybe a different experience on this because like I didn't go toward like the developer first. I kind of like started with social media, and actually like I have this like, for example, OpenClaw. I think like most people that start OpenClaw didn't use OpenClaw, and like I feel there's a lot of people that actually like are like interested in like the space of ideas and these kind of things, and they don't really like understand it in like a deep level, but they still like buy into it or do like try stuff. And like I'm thinking Vibecoder, for example, like Vibecoder is becoming so big of like a community, and they are not overlapping with open source community that much, and I feel like they pay way more than like other people. Like I was quite surprised because I released the POC, and actually like I got I think already like 20 paying users on like 100 subscription on $100 subscription, which is like it's a POC. I wasn't expecting this, and because I targeted like through social media those people instead of like open source developers. But yeah, definitely I guess like if you want this to be happening in like the industries afterward, you need those people that work in those industries to like buy into this afterward, like in the deeper level. So I think it still holds what you say. It's just like I feel like maybe the entry point doesn't have to be those people directly, but you can start with like growing the community through people that like pays and like are very vocal on social media and like diffuse the technology, and then you can like get into them because like it's the technology is actually good behind it.
Yeah, and they actually have a power of choosing the tool they will use in the big companies. Like that's software engineering is a diva's world. So at some point when you hire a few very talented people, they tell you which tool they want to use. So that's I think the most important is to win their heart, not have a top-down sales approach.
I also have joined several hackathons these days, and as a sponsor and a judgment. So what inspired me most is I see some engineer without any experience of coding make things impossible possible. For example, one girl without not any knowledge about how to coding, just web coding apps about radio apps. To help based on the knowledge with the music he listening in the last 10 years. And another example is a man who have some brain damage. He cannot talk and work, but he used the knowledge of the large language model to build a robot to help him working and talking with his family in their daily work. So that's very inspires me a lot. So my suggestion is you use the large language model to solve the problem in your daily life.
Thank you. So yeah, that kind of is a nice kind of transition to this change in the world. So I think the nature of developers is changing dramatically. So some people, again, like San Francisco is known for extreme. So we have really extreme opinions. Some people say it's actually better not to have any experience, being a developer, being a completely new non-technical person, but with a deep domain knowledge. For instance, I know, experienced CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, who basically was, high-paid CMO, but he's not a developer. However, he knows, for instance, how to buy and sell ads on the internet efficiently, right? So a lot of companies are spending like millions of dollars. So he's building a startup that effectively will let you, avoid an agency, because if you buy, if you're like $2 to $5 million company, you basically, cannot afford a highly paid marketing professional. However, you pay an agency. An agency takes 10-20% commission, so it has several like $10,000 a month. You can for $200 a month have an agent which will do their job, but you have to know exactly how this works, how the online auctions work for bidding on keywords and how to place ads, right? So his example shows that, and now he can fundraise actually, he can do a startup. So it shows that if you have deep knowledge in something which is not developers now are suddenly the least privileged people, because like the coding has been automated and they don't know anything else. so like maybe you have a hobby, you should have a hobby, right? You should know something else. So is this, and so what it leads to, some people say DevRel is dead as a consequence of this, because the way we used to do DevRel, right? Everything we know, let's put some open source, let's write some blogs, not going to read these open source blogs, but the agents. So write it for agents now, right? And so, but however, other people like said, okay, like we spend 6 months letting agents do this. We don't look at code. You know, all the code is crap now, nothing really works. Not a single business is deployed which is making money. And the only people still making money have, you know, maintained properly built systems which are online, which are monitored and observed, and developers work with them. So like online, like in-person events are back. Like we want hackathons. We want to be in the room, right? We don't want to read all this stuff online, right? We decide what's happening when we meet together and build. So there are two extreme opinions, right? One is the Varel is dead, developers are domains experts, and the other people say, no, this is all a fad. The only paying software systems are those developed in traditional way or with agents now, but they're still done. And like you need to build like a system, you need to talk to developers. So I wonder, what do you guys think? How do you balance these two extreme views?
Actually, I have published a blog post about, like, roughly about this recently, and I think that the very interesting. Personally, I don't think coding agents are going to change much. They're going to change a few things, but not that much. And what they're doing, however, is that I think that whatever culture you have internally, technical culture or anything, is just going to push it like 20 times, 20 times what it was supposed to be. You're going to go to the logical conclusion of what your culture is 20 times faster. So that means that for the garbage projects that are not making any money, these are companies that would have failed anyway. And these are probably because people who don't have, big word product manager, or like people who actually have deep knowledge about a given topic, these are companies that would have failed anyway, it's just they're failing 20 times faster. And companies that have deep knowledge, are still focused on what matters to the users are going to succeed faster. And, the only thing that, at the end of the day, code has never really been about code. If you think about it. It's not a new thing, right? It's like, I think it's like since 1971, the psychology of software engineering or something like this. Or, code is kind of like the residue of like conversations that happen between people and how, what we decide to build and how we decide to build it. And we focus so much on code for like, decades because that was an expensive residue, very expensive one. And that's why we built IDEs as well. But now it's kind of like going down to zero. And we're discovering that the bottleneck is product management. It's like, what do you decide, what do you build? Who do you build it for? And, and also what do you not build? And I think that people have forgotten that it's not because you can build something that you should build it. And, and I think, Cloud Code is an example. And so we're gonna see more of this. It's just gonna be a consequence of the product management, the product vision, I think. And
Yeah, I think I disagree on a lot of points and agree on some points, but mostly because I think there's like a gradient of what you're building. Like I think if you're building stuff which is like direct to customers and that is like straightforward, then I think definitely like field work is definitely valuable, and like it's very important to have field experience. And so like on this position, I think that someone with field experience would have like way more value as like someone who develop a product, as someone with like a deep experience in software engineering. I think though, like if you go down and you say like, okay, the foundation stuff that people are building on top of, I think those one you can't use AI like reliably for decision or architecture decision. Like for actually executing the plan, like it's pretty efficient, like I use it a lot, but for like thinking hard about how do we architecture the thing, even when it has to like propose options, often the option they propose is really bad, you have to like propose your own decision, and like having deep expertise on like, do you know how to architecture a system, how to think about like modularity, think about like extensibility, like the solid thing, which is like be dry, be like all those things are very important, and I think that AI is augmenting this a lot because now you can be perfectionist. Like when you were perfectionist in code before, you would just like take too much time building your system. Whereas like right now you can be perfectionist because you can just spend 3 hours like thinking about the actual architecture, define it, then let the AI code it, then go back and prune the stuff that was bad and make sure that the system is actually robust. So I think like depending on where you are on this scale, then it's better to have like field expertise, or it's better to have like deep expertise in software engineering. And when you're in the middle, I guess that the best is to have both. Like if you can have like someone who like has deep expertise and someone who has like deep like software engineering skills, then you can have like best of both worlds. But I think depending on where you are, you want to value one or the other more.
I mean,
I like that. I just seen on Twitter somebody, like in context, you can set goals. Some guy said /goal be as autistic as possible, and like they enjoy the quality of paranoid kind of perfectionism. So I didn't realize this. You can be a language nerd, and you can insist on the style that you want, and now you can impose it throughout the whole code base. That's a great point.
But we don't disagree, because in case of infrastructure, the architecture and the interface are the product.
Yes.
And who's best, who's the best product manager when that's the case is usually a developer who has a lot of experience and opinions. So, I say product manager in a very general, product manager in a very general sense. So right. I agree, actually.
Yeah, I would differentiate three very different things for me. Like there's the at-will automation, where you have a task that you will probably never have tomorrow to do, and Claude, ChatGPT, they're getting very good at suggesting things, and if it doesn't work, well, you try again, and maybe you do it manually if it fails the second or third time. And for that, yeah, definitely software engineering is probably useless or will become useless. At the second level would be like the task you want to have done every day, and for that kind of automation, you don't want to need to have a conversation with Claude or whatever every day to fix the issues you can see. And for that, it's better to have an understanding of what you're building and how you should do it and how you could do it better. And the third level is when you want to put it in your product and expose it to users, and that's where software engineering is very crucial. And developer is not necessarily software engineering, but software engineering is very crucial to understand all the patterns. And just to give a few examples of what you need when you put something in a product, is you need to add payment, billing, block people that didn't pay. You need to have role-based management, security, not to have users access other users' data. Then you need to think about user experience. It's not like if you're not the users, you need to be clear about how to use your product, and this is like 90% of the front-end work. And so all this is on top of just solving the task issue that you were targeting first. So in the end, if you really want to have something that scales, software engineering is really necessary at this level.
Yeah, I feel at the end of the day, all about the vibe coding or agents help take your work is all about how you dedicate your test, your product design. It's the only thing can represent your soul. Otherwise, this programming language is going to be agnostic. I never learned how to program Swift, but I successful to deliver a pretty good software on macOS. And so there are massive of apps generated every day, and they flow in the Apple Store. And these reviewers are get crazy. Before they can review very quick, and now they give delays. And that's happened. And so I think the missing part is about the layers for human and layers for agents. The protocol layers, we already have the MCP, and they can easily to call tools. But for agent, they have to do the job. They're going to evaluate the tools. There are so many tools existing on this pool created by agents, by no experience product designers. And this is I call a semantic layer. The agent is going to read the comments or analyze the product review and select the one of the best to serve the human's purpose. So the human at the end is going to change the paradigms from looking for tools themselves, but only transfer to convert their goals, their targets, and then we delegate our permission. The agents will find the right tools for us.
I think the most impacting thing is that I see lots of customized apps in this AI era. Those kind of customized app didn't come before the AI era because that didn't have enough IOI. The engineer won't working on that. For example, as I mentioned previously, that we have the uncommon disease of your brain, and you don't have enough user of this kind of special apps to help you to working and talking. But with the help of AI, it's lower the language barrier and the development cost. So this kind of apps come into realize. That's really amazing stuff, as I think.
Thank you. So I want to shift gears a bit and I want to pick up on what Rémi said. I really love this idea that the code is the residue of our conversations, right? I think it's brilliant, but the conversations are not just one-on-one. It happens in the communities. And so what I noticed, I'm now coming to Paris very often. It's like I've been at this place many times now, and this is like the capital of French AI. So I kind of half-jokingly try to write a description of AI La Française. I asked Claude, what is AI La Française? It gave me actually very accurate. It says this is state-funded. You pay attention to intellectual quality, not commercial bullshit. The French people know the engineering, they respect education. It actually gave a very nice explanation why French startups should stay in France. However, a lot of them are still going to the US, right? And so I'm wondering. So basically now, the apps are extension of our culture. Culture is inherently local. So what we see right now in AI, you have to go to San Francisco to get funding, but if we are to embed AI in local businesses, for instance, if they deal with people data and you work in HR or in finance, you will be bound by the local regulations. Your data will have to stay local. If you want to sell to French companies, it doesn't matter that you're a cool kid in San Francisco if you don't know anybody, right? In Renault, you will not be able to sell to them. They don't care. I mean, they will appreciate that you have some modern skills, but you have to have relationships. So I wonder if you, most of you guys are in Paris and in France. Do you see any specifics of open source AI community in France or in Japan, right? What do you see? Are there any differentiators? Are there any kind of different approaches which work here? If you build community, or do you care about it? Or do you just want global users? Do you not care where they come from, as long as they give you a star? And how should we approach it as a community, right? Because our hackathons are local. You get together with people and build in a room. So how do you see how we go about building these communities? What do you see really works for you? Who is your community? Do you have some preferred people you want to be around your projects?
Yeah, so we're not necessarily a great example because people think we're a Parisian AI company. We're an American company that happens to have a French CEO. And so, it's just half of the employees are in the US, the other half is everywhere in Europe. We're fully distributed. And I guess, a lot of many good, AI open source projects came from France, actually. We all use scikit-learn. Maybe not all of us, but they're the older one in the room, the older ones in the room. Yeah, used it, and we all use transformers, all these libraries. But from the very beginning, I guess they were all had a sort of global, trying to reach for the global stage. And it's really funny because when you look, Americans, I was in San Francisco last week, they don't care about the rest of the world, right? Because the entire market is there, and that's, San Francisco is the entire world, basically. And we don't have the same thing here. And I think, and I'm going to be, completely honest, and I guess, it's partly my fault as well, is that the community, we talk about the Paris ecosystem, but there's not such a unity as there is in San Francisco, for instance. It's very fragmented. The big companies, I'm not going to name them, don't, make the effort that some companies make in the US to try to, foster the community. And, you know, and you have meetups here and there, but you look, I mean, I actually asked the question yesterday because I didn't know, but it's quite fragmented. They're not, you know, happen on a regular basis. And, you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before I think we can start talking about, you know, the Paris AI community. And I think that can happen. And, you know, we have like many great companies now that are, you know, that exist, that are in Paris, like some very technical, some, you know, architect, like, you know, very much infrastructure, some on the application side. And so I think that we have everything that we need for this. It just hasn't happened yet. But some people are working on it.
I think for myself, it's a bit hard to position myself because I'm still like early on this. And I'm actually like, I started the company in San Francisco. I'm back from San Francisco since like 2 weeks ago. And I'm planning to go back there and like stay there for a while. So yeah, I would have loved to stay in France to do it. The thing is like there is so much opportunity in America, like in San Francisco, that you don't get in Paris. And I feel like I would be very open to like come back at some point and like when the thing is established. But I feel like for the Parisian community is pretty fragmented. If it, indeed, I did the 42 school. I was like president of 42 AI, which is like one of the biggest associations in Paris about AI. Right now, they did a lot of hackathon with Hugging Face and stuff like this. And so there's like 42. There is Mistral. There is a bunch of other hubs like Hugging Face, but they don't really talk with each other. Like we do like organize hackathon between us, but it's like not that often. We don't have like this much communication. And yeah, I feel like the community is interesting, but very like self-centered, and yeah, and so more interested in the global community, I guess. I'm more into like opening like social media and like GitHub and open source community and seeing where it goes, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you talk about like local culture, I think that's indeed the key to have some kind of defensibility on what you're doing. And what you can do in France, what you can do with the Paris ecosystem is to build something about like what people will find for them in Paris, in France. So it could be like anything related to the language, to the culture, to the way of doing business, to the regulation. For like really developer tools, I think the community is worldwide, and definitely it's probably 100 times harder to do it staying here alone. I would probably agree on that.
Yeah, man, you are French, right? People choose to doing startup in United States and Bay Area, and if I know correctly, Alexy, you initiated like the earlier Bay Area AI community in 2015.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And myself, I was arriving in France like since 2017. I was finishing my engineer school study and then doing startup in France, and I still love this land. But that doesn't mean I quarantine myself here. We still try to expand like the capital network even to Asia, Hong Kong, and Singapore, and Silicon Valley. But it's indeed there's maybe kind of criticized about the talent's intensity. Maybe it's like a hard fact to accept, but indeed in Paris we are kind of very diversified culture. We lack of famous unicorns. In America, you can easily find a lot, but we still have a lot of hope in France because this is totally different culture, like the Scikit-learn co-founder, and or other lots of fundamental research to supporting machine learning, MLP. It is all powered by the French research team, and the community I have experienced that. It's very fragmented indeed, like the 42 Station F, they organize a lot of events, but it's like the outsiders, they flow in Paris, but it seems we need to grow Paris to have a more native AI community. I was the earlier open cloud like a speaker in Paris like 2 months ago. I don't remember. It's the JAMA and the Alliance Accelerator. Sorry to mention. So they organize the community events and to share experience of using open cloud. At that time, people are still crazy for the lobster. We wear lobster hats and sharing our experience. And that's the first time I really, I'm so engaged with the local AI community, because 80% of the builders, they have installed the open cloud. Yeah. I feel like we need more, like maybe the capital thing is the startup we needed. Yeah, that's a quick thought.
Thank you, but you still chose Paris as your home base, right? So you appreciate it. It's a good place to be. Think, act globally, think locally, right? So this is a good place to be. Minako.
I also working in Bay Area and Japan several years ago. So I think the open source AI infrastructure and the model really helps those different areas to remove the barrier of the because some area may be lack of talent, and some area may be lack of GPUs. And with open source, I know many university and community use our open source model to training their own version of this model. For example, some model speaking Cantonese and some model speaking Japanese. And I think this is really important because we really need some diversity models outside the world. It will be really boring if we only have one mode or several modes, just like GPT or cloud, for examples. But this kind of language should be seen as present. So I think the diversity in the open source community is very important for us.
Thank you. Well, I think the lunch is coming and already there, so I will not want to hold you guys much more. Let's just close and mention one thing that, so we're gonna hopefully we'll meet here again next year. So between now and next year, what's most exciting for you? What do you want to achieve in your companies, in your open source AI activities? What do you want to do? When somebody asks you what did you do this year? What do you want to be most proud of next year?
So in Kimi, we are working on the next generation of the new architecture of the model. So we want to solve the long-term test window problem because nowadays many of the users use the Hermes agent or open cloud to use their models. They give us lots of demand on the contents window. They want the model become more intelligent and can solve problem by themselves. So maybe we will launch a new generation of the model within these years.
So we're going to release a new AI hardware of our voice inputs, which can it's called Super Button. People can customize the function to quickly recall any voice command, and it can interact with your mobile phone and the laptop. I'm currently working on that, and I plan to have an education plan for all these university students. I think they are going to be my first group of users, so for free for them. Yeah, so imagine you just press a button and you whisper, then because speaking is 4 or 5 times faster than typing, and it's also provide more accessibilities for people who have difficulty to type. Yeah, I have bad fingers.
Thank you.
So it's hard to see 1 year distance now that productivity is this high. Roadmaps are only for a couple of weeks. Not just joking, but what we want to do with Draft and Run right now is to provide a tool that gives a clear view of what workflow AI you need in a product. And I think we're entering a time where you need a workflow of AIs everywhere in the product. Like you capture some conversation, you want a title. This is a LLM's job. At some point, you have just some information to get on some guy, you want to go on a website and get it online. That's another workflows job. And apps are going to have many, many workflows as small functions inside software, and we want really to provide a tool where you can see all of them, not feel logged in, and yet have a total control on what you produce.
Yeah.
For me, I guess I would love to see this like intuition I have about like AI agent being just like a stepping stone, and then getting to this like orchestration and like having this kind of system that are able to at the same time like handle unstructured data, and at the same time having the ability to like understand what's going to happen in like it's kind of like a workflow, but it's more like a program because you can like do function calling, you can have objects in them, and so it's like this evolution of workflow which is at the middle between like AI agents, AI orchestration, and so yeah, I already built something like this for my previous company when I did an automated jailbreaking system, and actually I used like genetic algorithm and a mix of like AI that do reasoning and then actually like really good algorithmic thing, and the architecture was dual and it's still there in terms of like capability 1 year after I coded it. And I think it's really like the new shape of the future of like actual good programs is going to mix like actual AI components and actual logic. And so yeah, seeing this happen and having my language being able to handle more and more of those use cases, and yeah, I hope in 1 year.
Thank you.
All right, so I don't make many predictions because I try to talk about what I understand mostly. The first prediction that I made was, I guess almost 3 years ago, the first time Outlines was released. We were like, everyone's going to be using this at some point. And by everyone, I mean like except chatbot applications. I think this is more or less true, or it's getting there. And now I am deeply convinced of something, which is that 2026 is going to be the year of open source model, but maybe not because, the reason is probably not what people expect. We developed our own agent orchestration framework internally because we're running like between 30 and 40 agents at the moment, mainly go to market. And we developed our own framework because we're just not happy with what existed. And we're developing software for function call. Not just for JSON, but function calling as well. And we're like, well, we're going to eat our own dog food and use our software. And so to use our software, we need to use open source models for agents. And so we ripped out Claude for the agentic loop. So not for the text at the end, but for the agentic loop. So like 80% of the tokens. And we use Kimi K2.6 for the tool calling. And you know what? It works just as well. And I think we could even go down in size, and and this is just like much cheaper than Claude. And so I think, if we kind of solve the problem of the fragmentation with tool calling and open source models, I think that the big labs are going to take a big hit, and are not going to take, are not going to grow as much as they expect from the agentic, revolution. And so we're working on this actually.
Especially if we get like Opus 4.7 level of model by the end of the year in open source, which is like often it's between 4 and 6 months, like the difference. And then like I don't see any use case where I would not use like an open source model on this.
I see how the agents run internally. It doesn't even matter. Like if Moonshot stopped producing models, or if everyone stopped producing open source models, we're there. Like for agentic workflows, we're there. Like we're probably not in terms of code, etc., but it doesn't matter because the number of tokens that I spent like writing the code or writing the summary is nothing compared to the number of tokens that I spent thinking and in the agentic loop. So I think we have a bunch of announcements that we're going to make around this, but I am absolutely convinced that 2026 is going to be the year of open source models for that reason. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, on that note, let's thank all the panelists, and we have a bright future for open source AI and a lot of work to do. Thank you very much, and let's go to lunch.